Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your closing bell, Wednesday, March 9th, 2022. Champ Week is off and running, and handful of upsets, a lot of close games. I talked about the Jekyll and Hyde of both Syracuse and Florida State, and obviously Florida State was the one that said, we're all set. And Syracuse rolls them by about 40. BC, Wake Forest tied 70-70 with 46 seconds left. Talked about that Arizona State team that's been playing a lot better, up 10 with about 8 minutes to go. The game I left on the desk, I had Nevada -6, and it lands on 7. And it's kind of comical. It is what it is. I didn't dive in there. I talked about them, and these numbers are so tight. Okay, guys, Vegas is sharper than attack, and they're only going to get sharper. So yes, there's a million games. Yes, they're all on TV. Yes, I want to play all of them. But the fact of the matter is, the more you put your bankroll at risk, the more often than not that, at the end of the day, you play 10 games. If you're lucky, you went 5-5. Maybe you went 6-4. Maybe you had a great day of 7-3, but you also can go 3-7, 4-6, you could be on the wrong side of the hook, wrong side of a missed free throw or made free throw, walk off three, whatever. So as Scott has talked about in the Webby's Words of Wisdoms a lot, be confident when you walk to that window or place that wager on your app. Don't play it just because you're up. A free swing. Don't use I'm going to pay to find out. Okay. Those add up. Okay. So that's my sermon for the afternoon here. And let's bring him in from the Palm Tree State himself, Mr. Scott D. Webb. Good afternoon, Scott.
Good afternoon, Jeff. And hello, Mr. Marty Lowe, saying hello to us today. And he also wants to know who's going to win the SEC tournament. And that's your arena, Jeff. I'm not even dealing with college basketball, so that's all on you. But hello, Mr. Marty. How are you today?
Let's see. Good afternoon, Marty. Who's going to win the SEC? Well, I have a future at 18-1 for Auburn cutting the nets down to win it all. As for this tournament, Kentucky's playing the best by far in the SEC right now. Auburn is playing a lot of grab ass, a lot of games going to OT or right to the wire. Arkansas is sneaky. I don't trust Alabama. They live and die by the 3 there. Tennessee has shown flashes. So if you want me to say who's going to win the SEC, I'd put my money on Kentucky. I know they're chalky, but I like them. And unfortunately, I was late to the party on them, Marty, to get some futures on them. So I'll say Kentucky. NFL, Mr. Sean King, who we had on the show about a month ago, decides to spill the beans that says after Friday's court and everything gets settled for Deshaun Watson, he's going to Pittsburgh. Now, even my locals said that this afternoon. So social media is all hot and bothered there. Carson Wentz goes to the Commanders. I'm 1 for 1 this year on that. Thank you, Commanders. Not Washington football team or Redskins. It's the Commanders. There. Jimmy G now up. Does he go to Indy or is Pittsburgh, where he's kind of sort of from, go there? I said a year ago, I'm going to stick to it. I know Carolina is all in on Deshaun Watson. I haven't heard their name in a long time. I did hear CMC's name out there for a potential trade. I don't know who the hell would take a swing at him. He's got hurt the last 2 years. But anyways, Scott, we haven't talked in 6 hours. Want to talk a little baseball? You want to talk a little football? As I said on the internet today, There was nothing for 2 weeks about this international goddamn draft. Excuse my French. Now all of a sudden that's a sticking point. No, take that out of this damn equation, get the deal done, and figure that out later.
Yeah, I think they've done that. The last thing that I saw is that they said, "Hey, look, this is kind of a big deal to the owners," and then the owners said, "Look, if it's not a big deal to you guys, we want you to sign the CBT, and we'll postpone this thing until, say, 2024, and we can just work on it for all of this time frame." And then in 2024, if we don't have something up, we'll open up the CBT again. Which, obviously we don't want to open up any CBTs. We want to get this thing done. CBA, whatever. So CBT is a different story, but they're still not there. And I think at this point things are getting unreasonable. I think that you and I spoke behind the scenes a little bit, and the guy's name was Levine, who's the president of the New York Yankees, and his comments basically were simply this: he said it's not about money anymore. He said what it's about is what's reasonable and what's unreasonable, and at this point in time, things are getting to a point where things are unreasonable. And if they're unreasonable as an owner, you're not going to go and say, yeah, we're going to make this happen. And I get it. The players are trying to get everything back. They're trying to get it all back in one CBA. And they're being spurred on by Scott Boras. And, they're using the public opinion. But I'm going to tell you, at this point in time, if the players don't take what they've been offered at this point, shame on them, because this is getting to a point where everything that is bad about baseball has been addressed, and what that means is that things that are I'll just go down the list. Jim Bowden put it out perfectly earlier today. If I can find it, and maybe it's in a different thing, but what he said basically was that, look, here we go. Tanking now has been derailed in the new CBA. Service time manipulation has been derailed in the CBA. Rule changes like the universal DH, the shift bands, the pitch clock, the bigger bases, all that stuff. Higher CBT and younger pay for the younger stars. Higher minimum salaries, expanded postseason, and we get 162 games. What's wrong with all of that? Besides nothing. So at this point, it's been negotiated to a better game. And that's what the players originally were talking about. We need a better game. Okay, well, now it's about money for them. And it doesn't surprise me that the international pool, the international draft, and those things are getting looked at and talked about by the foreign players as is a big deal. And they want, they're not being protected and all this stuff. That's all bullshit too, because the guys that are talking are all the guys that make all the money. And they're not thinking about all the other guys that are in there. So I think that this needs to just get done, and they need to quit talking, and they need to get the ball and the glove and the bat and get out on the field, because they're going to talk themselves right out of this deal. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what's going to happen after that, because I think my opinion is that this is as close as it's going to get to what everybody wants.
Yeah, just looking at a couple of the tweets on Twitter, the deal was there to be made. It really was. And everyone looks like they had moved. They had give and take. And if they don't close this deal like real soon, like not like at midnight tonight, they're going to both sides leave sour. There goes another week. And like you said, at least after the first time they did this, they got back on the horn in a couple days, and then they met 3-4 days later. I know if they say, oh, we're this close, we're just going to take a breath. And then what are they going to do? Start talking again. What's today? Today's Wednesday. Well, we'll talk again Friday, Saturday, and then we'll meet again on Tuesday. Enough. Okay. You've come this far. Okay. Just if I'm telling you, Scott, if they don't get it done today, I'm going to go back to that May 1st and be skeptical there, and I'll start leaning on Memorial Day.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's amazing that baseball is going through all this, and the NFL in an off season is making trades and doing different things, and they're getting the quarterback shuffled and talking about the draft, and everybody's all hyped up about all that, and then baseball can't even get on the field. So it's not pretty at this point, and it should be.
Let's go to the NBA. Let's see if you see anything that's changed since this morning. I'm going to go through the board again. And as I started in my opener, I'm going to say it again. Guys, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you look at the board and it's like, oh, there's this one, there's this one, there's this one, there's this one. You follow it, whatever. Last night, 3-0. There was games that were barking at us loud. I know there's a ton of games out there. The board is not singing, is not chirping, and sometimes study long, study wrong comes into play, and then you're just staring at it, and then you kind of hypnotize your brain to say, okay, I do like that side, and you kind of brainwash yourself to say this is why. So I'm going to go through the board with you guys again. I did it this morning. If something pops, if Scott gives me some conflicting information, maybe there's a bag in pregame. We don't know, but let's have some fun here. Go ahead, Scotty.
Some of the things that I talked about this morning, that Boston and Charlotte game, that number is now 225, I think, is the total. I liked it at over 227, so I'm liking that. So I went and played that one. I played over 225. My number comes up at 225, but it's really influenced off of the last 14 games that they played. So in the last 2 weeks, that number is more like 235. So the defense that Boston has been playing, they haven't played in the last couple of weeks. And Charlotte is off of a back-to-back. So when you're playing the second of a back-to-back, you usually don't play as good a defense. So I like this game to go over the number. So I played that one. That Phoenix and Miami game, I told you earlier, I liked Phoenix at +8. Well, now it's all the way down to +4.5. So that tells me that the initial thought was right, but now it's almost at a point where you want to take the 4.5. So I'm just going to leave that one alone because I think that's a good number for Miami, to be honest.
Hey, Scott,
yeah.
I was just going to say that going from 8 to 4, was that probably initial thought that Booker was going to be out and he's playing now?
I think so, because he is playing. It's one of those. Okay, he's missed the last couple of days, and that's why the number was the way it was, and now he's going to play. So, I still think, look, that Miami Heat team doesn't get any respect, I don't think. And the truth of the matter is, they just played some really tough teams, and they went 3-1 in those 4 games that they played. And the one game they lost, which was to that Milwaukee team, Milwaukee had to hit a crazy ass 3-point shot at the end of the game to win. And it is what it is. So they could have been 4-0 against all those big boys in the East. So I think that this is a good spot for Miami now, minus the 4.5, whatever it is. So I'm going to leave that one alone. I decided to leave this Milwaukee game alone, even though I like Milwaukee in this spot, because my number tells me it's supposed to be good, but I can't figure it out. So when I can't figure it out, I'm not playing it. But I did play this Laker and Houston game. I don't think either one of these teams are big scoring juggernauts anymore. I think that number at 234 is too big. So I played it under 234. So I got an over 225 and an under 234. And the only other game I played, Jeff, is I like San Antonio tonight. Plus they're plus 1.5. And I think they're going to win the game outright. I think they should be the favorites tonight. Toronto, over the last 2 weeks, averages 106 points per 100 possessions. So it's one of the weakest scoring offenses out there. And San Antonio has been playing much, much better on offense, and they've played a much better schedule. Toronto's played this schedule that is 27th ranked in the NBA, and there's only 30 teams. So they put up that kind of a scoring output against that kind of competition. So I think San Antonio is the right play here at home. And I think you're asking a lot out of Toronto to be a favorite over kind of really anybody at this point. But I think those are the three plays that I had. The only one that I caution everybody on is this Minnesota game. Minnesota today is playing the Thunder, and it's a big spread. I think it's like 14 or 15, something like that. But let me pull it up again just so I have it in front of me. But Minnesota, Beverly, Russell, Edwards, and Vanderbilt, the four guys that are on the starting lineup are all game time decisions. So I'm guessing they're trying to decide whether they're going to take one of those rest days against kind of a weaker opponent today. And if that's the case, you certainly don't want to be on Minnesota. But I wouldn't want to be on the OKC side either. So I'm just leaving that one alone, but that's just a cautionary tale.
I can't remember. You remember the last time an NBA team was favored by 19.5?
No, it's been a while. I mean, I'm going to suggest that we'll probably see some of that stuff as we're coming down to the wire here. Portland's worse. You know, I just said what I said about Toronto and scoring, but Portland's the worst. And if I told you here, let me do it this way. If I told you who the starting lineup was for Portland, you probably wouldn't even know him. B. Williams is the Brandon Williams is the point guard. CJ Ellsby's the shooting guard. Josh Hart, which I know him, he's the shooting forward. Trendon Watford is the point forward, and Drew Eubanks is the center. You know any of those guys?
Is that Bob Eubanks, the game show host? I do know Josh Hart. I'm assuming that's the one that played at Villanova. But
he's the one they got in the trade in New Orleans when they traded CJ McCollum, and he's been playing pretty well. But Bledsoe's out, Lillard's out, Laduza's out, Newkirk is out, Simmons is out, Winslow is out. I mean, they got who knows who this team is?
They need to call up. Let me see, Clyde Drexler, Bill Walton. Can think of a few months. Maybe see if Dr. Jack Ramsey will come back and coach a few games. But all right, let's see what we got in college here, guys. Bear with us here. BC holding on up 4 with 1:44 to go in OT. Clemson, Virginia Tech. Again, we went over most of this board this morning at the Breakfast Bankroll. So anyone with any questions, feel free to throw them on our timeline at EC Sports Invest or Webby20 MLB, or just send us some direct messages right here and we'll answer them also. Tech opened up at 4, now 5. It's been like that all day. 77% of the bets, 86% of the money, Scotty, on Tech.
Yeah, pretty close. $81,000 on the game, 79% of the money, 68% of the tickets on Virginia Tech.
I'd say it's a public play. I respect the opening number. Clemson did play yesterday, but I've been waiting for this Tech team to play like they're supposed to. I'm going to stay away, though. Virginia opened at 5, now 6. Rotation number 649, 650. 68% of the bets, 60% of the money on Virginia.
This is $90,000 on the game, 83% of the money, 82% of the tickets on Virginia.
I just tell you this. Listen, Virginia's not the team it used to be. Louisville's just playing out the string. They showed up yesterday. Maybe they get a good half in them. I'm staying away. I think Louisville's coming to try to win a couple games. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win tonight. It opened at 5 for a reason. Now it's 6. I think Louisville +6 would be the side, but we're staying away. San Jose State, Fresno State, no thank you. Oregon State, Oregon, this line opened at 10.5, now 9. One of Oregon's better players is out. 58% of the bets, 59% of the money, all on Oregon State.
This has got 128,000 on the game, 52% of the money on Oregon, 60% of the tickets on Oregon. So it's almost split.
So I'm not buying this move because a guy's out. So anyone jumping on Oregon State because of an injury, I know they haven't won. I get that. Or they've won one game in conference. I know they're bad. They remind me of Georgetown, and Georgetown's been covering lately. I'm just saying, be easy over there. This line's now down to 8.5 at DraftKings. So just be careful. That's all I'm going to say there. Washington State opened up at 8.5, now 7.5 at DraftKings. Against California, rotation number 665, and the Devils 666. 53% of the bets, 80% of the money on Washington State.
Yeah, nobody wants to bet this game compared to all the other ones. This is $21,000 on the game. 81% of the money, 77% of the tickets on Washington State.
Utah, Washington opened up at 1, now getting pushed to 2.5, despite 56% of the bets, 66% of the money on Utah.
Nah, this is I'm going to have to click in here and see what's going on, but $107,000 on the game, 55% of the money on Washington, 61% of the tickets on Washington. Let me pull this up and see what Washington's doing, if there's any big money coming in. And it's just been a steady flow, and there's no big money on any of these games on those games.
7:00 at Madison Square Garden, 671, 672. DePaul against St. John's. This opened at 5.5, now 4.5, showing 66% of the money. 66% of the bets, 55% of the money on DePaul.
This one's a split one here. It's 126,000 on the game, 55% of the money on DePaul, 54% of the tickets on St. John's.
Stay away. Part of me leans DePaul, but when you go against St. John's at Madison Square Garden, they show up. So I think the number's spot on, but I don't like it. Seems like a public play. A lot of people on social media are all over DePaul, so stay away. Georgetown, Seton Hall, another one. Opened at 10.5, now 9.5. Rotation number 673, 674. 60-60 split on Georgetown.
This is showing 63,000 on the game, 62% of the money, 77% of the tickets on Seton Hall.
So reverse line movement. Listen, I think the Hall's going to win. I lean Georgetown in a cover. That's all I'd say. Grab them at 10, 9.5. I think the dog covers there. Nebraska, Northwestern, rotation number 675, 676. It tips off at 6 in 1 hour and 3 minutes. Opened at 4.5, just went to 4 at Circa. I know a lot of social media, a lot of colleagues, a lot of friends are on Nebraska. They've played a lot better of late, and they've already lost twice to Northwestern this year, and it's tough to beat a team 3 times. I respect Nebraska as a dog today.
138,000 on the game, 70% of the money and 63% of the tickets on Nebraska.
Yeah, they're I don't want to say a public trendy dog, but they're pretty close to a public trendy dog for sure. Minnesota, Penn State opened at 2.5, now 3.5. It looks like 81% of the bets, 67% of the money on the Nittany Lions, Scott.
56,000 on the game, 77% of the money, 73% of the tickets on Penn State.
Yeah, I have no feel either which way. Like I said, guys, this board is not like really pulsating. The one game that I really kind of sort of leaned today was Nevada at 6. Maybe you got it at 6.5. It lands on 7. These guys are real sharp. Mississippi, Missouri opened at 3, now 4. 62% of the bets, 57% of the money coming in on Ole Miss.
77,000 on this one, 56% of the money, 54% of the tickets on Mississippi.
This next game makes no sense to me. I mean, I think it was a high number to begin with. I think they were looking for Georgia money, and the line is frozen. Georgia, Vanderbilt, 681, 682. 62% of the bets, 94% of the money on Georgia.
This is showing a lot different now. That's 47,000 on the game, 52% of the money on Georgia, 65% of the tickets on Vanderbilt.
All right, Rice, Charlotte, I'm all set there. Marshall, nice win for ECSI last night. Now opened at 9-point dogs, now 8. 72% of the bets, 92% of the money on La Tech.
23,000 on this one, 71% of the money, 76% of the tickets on Louisiana Tech.
So there's some reverse line movement coming in on Marshall there. ODU and UTEP, I know a lot of colleagues that are on the UTEP money line, but they got it a little cheaper. 70% of the bets, 80% of the money in on UTEP, opened at 1, now 2.5 at Circa. Flat 2s everywhere else.
Yeah, 53,000 on this one, 65% of the money, 75% of the tickets on UTEP.
Okay. Huggy Bear versus Kansas State, rotation number 691, 692. K-State opened up at 1, now 1.5. Again, a lot of colleagues on West Virginia today. I'm showing 53% of the bets, 67% of the money on K-State.
Yeah, this one's a split difference here. So you got 95,000 on the game, 70% of the money on West Virginia, 57% of the tickets on Kansas State. That probably means there's a big bet in here. Let me look. Okay, West Virginia. There's a $6,000 bet. I don't see anything major in there. There's one $6,000 bet on West Virginia.
K-State is a favorite. It's always hard to swallow, so keep an eye on West Virginia there. In the pucks, again, I talked about this morning. I talked about it this afternoon with Andrew McGinnis. Edmonton opened up as a 130 favorite, really sticks out to us. It's down to 127. I'm showing 75% of the bets, 97% of the money on Washington.
Well, Jeff, these two games here, both games, I wouldn't call them bag plays because there's not just one play, but somebody's gone in here and hit these games. So I'll explain it to you in a second. So that Washington-Edmonton game, right? That's the one we're talking about. $107,000 on the game, which is a lot for a hockey game. 95% of the money and 70% of the tickets are on Edmonton. And if you go in here, Edmonton at, let's see. So at 1 o'clock today, somebody put 13,000 on Edmonton, which bumped it up to 22,000. And then about 10 minutes later, somebody put $40,000 on Edmonton. And then they just keep bumping it up, another 10,000, another 10,000. So I don't know how they're betting that strategy or if that's the same person or whatever, but somebody went and put $40,000 down on Edmonton though.
And Montreal, Vancouver?
That's kind of the same deal. Let me go back down there. Once I click out, it puts me back at the top. Let me get back down there. All right, so this one has $153,000 on the game, 98% of the money, 78% of the tickets on Vancouver. And this one looks like this. Let's go back there. So at that same time frame, about 120, so maybe it's the same guy, They put $22,000 on Vancouver, and then that put it up to 30,000. And then there was a $66,000 wager put on top of Vancouver on top of that. And then once they got to 96, there's another $23,000 wager put in on Vancouver at 4:00. So there's some big money coming in just in 3 bets.
With all this college action going on, and here they are hammering the pucks. I like it. The old okie dokie, as I like to call it around here. All right, that time of day for Webby's Words of Wisdom.
So today, I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about success often comes down to timing. And, all ideas can be supported by, venture capital or staffing, good business plans, or just your passion for what you're doing. But if the timing is wrong, then the business will fail. So an example of what I'm talking about is YouTube. So what if YouTube was made just 5 years before it came out? The problem with that is that it would have failed dramatically. And the reason is because the technology, the modern internet, wasn't available to handle what YouTube can provide today. The videos were clunky to load back then. It was choppy when it played back. So people didn't want to watch videos that way. They didn't want to watch them in those little short segments. And then right after the Janet Jackson issue that she had at the Super Bowl, and then they started playing those little video clips, then it became a popular thing to say, hey, this might go somewhere. So then all of a sudden there's been some additions to how the internet works, to the technology, and now we have the masterful YouTube that it works the way it does today with these little video clips. So I was thinking about that as to how that relates to what we do. And the best way I can tell you this is that in our world, we often do all these predictions and different things. And sometimes we're too early and sometimes we're too late. And if you're too late, there's not a whole lot you can do about it because you already made your wager, and whatever your prediction or whatever your thought processes are, that's kind of beyond, it's past, it's too far gone. But if you're too early, that's okay. And the reason it's okay is because don't be afraid to go back to the window with the same side or the same reasoning that you lost with the day before. Because sometimes it's just a matter of timing and circumstance. And in these sports like baseball, like NBA basketball, like NHL, where they're long seasons, a lot of times the data that you look at and the trends information that you might look at in the statistics or whatever it is that how you handicap the games will lead you to a proper direction, but it might be the wrong time. So don't be afraid to go back to the window, especially in baseball. If you bet, I don't know, say you bet the New York Mets one day and they lose, but then you go back to the window the very next day and bet the New York Mets again and they win. And they win because there's not going to be a whole lot of data variance from one day to the next when you're starting to look at those kinds of sequences, because those are long seasons and they play every day. That doesn't necessarily hold water when it's college football or NFL football, because those teams only play once a week. So you got to be careful on how you apply timing, but success often does come down to timing, and don't be afraid to utilize your timing properly, especially if you're a little bit too early, because if you're too early, you can always back it up and support it again. And in our business, you want to be early, because if you're late, you get the worst numbers.
Or you get Dave Sharapan showing you the CLV trash cans, right? And the EV trash can.
There you go.
I just tried to take a quick look, a quick lap, and I didn't see any updated news. So I'll just leave it there. I'm hoping we're getting some better news. I know everyone's frustrated at this point, so we'll see what happens. We'll keep the fingers crossed, keep the candles lit. Hoping everyone enjoys their afternoon and evening. Hopefully everyone has a a good day and a good evening. Have some fun again with these games. Any questions, reach out to myself or Scott. Myself at EC Sports Invest, Scotty over at Webby 20 MLB. And we will answer them. That's what we're here for. If you shy and you can't DM or put it on our timeline, send us an email at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com.
Hey,
We'll
Jeff.
answer it. Yep.
I just got this. The players are meeting internally at 5 o'clock, which is right now, to determine the next steps. Sources tell me that the conversation will determine whether players vote formally on the owner's last proposal, which means that if they're actually voting, then then they'll probably get a pass. I think if they get it to all the players, I was listening to the radio here a little while ago, and the guy, whatever his name is, who used to play for the Rockies, said, Spilly Goat. He said, look, if once it gets to the players and the players all vote and they get it out to not just the heads that are in that room, they're going to vote to play. They're going to go play. So if we get to that point and it's actually going to be put out to the players, I would expect there to be a deal. So if they don't get out of that room, though, that's a whole different story. I mean, they got to get it to a point where they put it out to vote for the whole the contingency of all the players. And once that happens, I think you'll see a deal happen. Anyway, food for thought.
Lock them in. You can't leave until you get the deal done. And no Uber Eats either. That's cheating. I saw it last night. It was late at night, and in comes Uber Eats, one of the guys that was doing some of the writing from, I think he's probably in his car outside, and he's like, there's about 15 bags dropped off at Uber Eats. So they're taking a break. So anyways, always wager and invest responsibly. If you have a problem, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number available. Ask for help. Why? Myself and Scott care. We'd like to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. For myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, Scotty Webb at Webby 20 MLB. We wish everyone a great night and good luck with your tickets. Have some fun, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow morning.